When a Sigma male goes silent, it's not by accident. It's not a strategy or a temporary whim. It's a final decision. And by the time you notice it, it's already too late. His silence doesn't scream, but it leaves deep echoes. This video is not for everyone. It's for those who seek to understand what lies behind that pause, one that will never be filled again. Why should you watch this video? Because Sigma males are that rare mix of mystery and logic, calmness and decisiveness. And when they go silent, there's plenty to say, but no longer to you. Let's explore the 7 signs of a Sigma male's silence, and why, if you're facing it, the bridge has likely been crossed without you realizing it. Are you ready? Let's begin. Number 1. The invisible bridge no longer exists. When a Sigma male decides it's time to go silent, there's no turning back. The invisible bridge that once connected his mind to the situation or person simply ceases to exist. But don't expect smoke or dramatic explosions. There won't be any. It's more like when your Wi-Fi suddenly disconnects. At first you think it's temporary, but then you realize the connection isn't coming back. The Sigma may still be in the same room, but mentally he's already crossed the bridge and burned it. The irony is that no one notices until they try to cross it themselves, only to discover they're walking on air, like in those cartoons where the character keeps moving forward without realizing the ground disappeared long ago. This silence isn't about anger or pride. It's because he's understood that maintaining the bridge is an emotional investment that's no longer worth it. He's assessed the back and forths, the half-hearted apologies, and the empty promises. And like any smart investor, he decides to cut his losses before facing emotional bankruptcy. There are no announcements or warnings, just the uncomfortable void left by his mental absence. When you try to reconnect, he's already far away, observing from the other side as you try to rebuild something he knows won't work. There's no resentment, just a cold tranquility surrounding him, because for a Sigma, it's not about revenge or proving a point. When the bridge no longer makes sense, he leaves it behind without looking back. And when you try to find him, it's already too late. Number 2, the image he had of you has crumbled. To understand how a Sigma male's respect works, imagine it like a sand sculpture on the beach. At first, you marvel at every intricate detail, but as soon as the tide begins to rise, what once seemed solid inevitably collapses. That's how quickly a Sigma's perception changes when someone reveals their true face. Sigmas don't lose respect overnight. They observe in silence, like detectives in a mystery movie. They give you space, opportunities, and even make excuses for you when you make mistakes. But once that perfect facade cracks, there's no way to rebuild it. It's like discovering that the superhero you admired was wearing a borrowed cape and had fake powers all along. They don't see it as betrayal, nor do they seek revenge. They simply understand that the idealized image was an illusion. And if Sigmas are good at one thing, it's recognizing when they've been chasing a reflection in the water. Once they see what truly lies behind the facade, their respect vanishes, just like the sand beneath your feet when a wave rolls in. What's most interesting is that they don't cause scenes or give you long speeches about how you let them down. They simply adjust their behavior, fewer calls, fewer meaningful glances, less of everything. And when you ask, why did you pull away? The answer is already clear, because they saw the real you, and that version no longer fits in their life. For a Sigma, respect is like a seed. If you don't nurture it, it stops growing. And once it stops, no amount of fertile soil can bring it back to life. When it's gone, it's gone. And no matter how hard you try, it won't return. Number 3, he prefers peace over any argument. For a Sigma male, a pointless argument is like a deep puddle after the rain. At first it seems like you can cross it easily, but you end up soaked to the knees and with ruined shoes. Worst of all, You don't even make it to the other side. That's why, when he feels trapped in this cycle, he simply steps back before getting more involved. He doesn't care who's right, because he knows that in repetitive arguments, no matter how much you explain, the other person will only hear what they want to hear. It's like playing a video game with a disconnected controller. You make an effort, but nothing changes on the screen. So, the Sigma stays silent and lets the game continue without him. Have you ever spent hours trying to convince someone of something only to end up with a headache? A Sigma doesn't waste energy like that. He's learned that peace is more valuable than any verbal victory. He doesn't need to prove his point or wait for an apology, because he understands that some battles are won by walking away. When someone asks him, "Why aren't you responding?" his internal answer is, "Because my peace is more valuable than any response." It's not pride, it's emotional survival. He prefers to invest his time in things that truly matter, like a good book or a solo walk, rather than get stuck in a storm of words that lead nowhere. A Sigma's silence isn't an invitation to push further. It's his way of saying, "This doesn't matter enough for me to sacrifice my peace." And once he chooses peace, no debate can pull him back. It's a full stop, not a comma. And that's what makes it so powerful. Number 4, the door is already closed. When a Sigma male closes an emotional door, he doesn't leave it slightly open, hoping someone will wedge their foot in. He closes it calmly, turns the key, and hides the spare where no one can find it. There are no dramatic slams or loud locks clicking into place, just the quiet serenity of someone who has decided never to reopen it. A Sigma isn't impulsive. Before closing that door, he spends nights thinking, analyzing every conversation, every broken promise, and every moment he felt his time was wasted. And once he reaches his conclusion, no amount of pleading or apologies will make him reopen it. It's like trying to charge an old phone with a broken charger. No matter how much you try, it won't work. People often mistake his silence for indifference, but what's really happening is much deeper. To him, that door represents everything he tried, everything he endured. And when he chooses to close it, it's not out of whim or anger, it's because he has exhausted all possible options. It's like turning off a show after giving it too many chances. You reach a point where you say, "I've seen enough, I know how this ends." There's no resentment or desire to go back and check if the lock still works. Once closed, the door becomes part of the past. And to a Sigma, what's left behind doesn't deserve to be revisited. If you try to knock, all you'll hear is your own echo. Because when he decides to close it, it's for good, not out of bitterness, but because his peace lies on the other side of that closed door, and that's exactly where he wants to be. Number 5, he's already mapped out his escape route. When a Sigma male decides to leave, he doesn't do it in a rush or with a lot of noise. It's more like a clean, cinematic getaway. Everything is planned, every move is precise, and by the time others realize something's off, he's already off the radar. There are no dramatic notes or farewell scenes. For him, the real power lies in disappearing without anyone seeing it coming. His strategy begins long before others even suspect anything. First, he reduces contact. He responds to fewer messages, avoids unnecessary meetings, and gradually becomes a distant presence. But the key detail is that he's not acting out of anger. He's operating with the logical detachment of someone who knows when it's time to leave. Most people think he's going through something, he'll be back. But no, the Sigma doesn't come back. His escape route is so well thought out that by the time you notice his absence, he's already crossed several mental borders. He's taken everything that matters to him and left behind what isn't worth carrying. He's not running from problems. He just knows that not everything is meant to be fixed. His exit strategy isn't about hurting others or seeking revenge. It's about protecting his energy, his time, and his peace. When he vanishes, he doesn't leave loose ends or open doors. What's left behind is simply part of his past, archived and closed. While others scramble to figure out when he slipped away, he's already onto the next chapter of his life. And for him, that's the real victory. Knowing when to leave before getting trapped in a game he no longer wants to play. Number 6. His heart is no longer in the same place. A Sigma male's heart doesn't vanish overnight. It quietly relocates, as if packing in silence while no one is watching. At first, it seems like he's still there, engaging in conversations and sharing moments. But if you pay close attention, you'll notice that he no longer responds the same way. It's like trying to charge your phone when the cable is loose. It looks connected, but no current is flowing. It's not that he has stopped feeling, he's simply learned to protect himself. His heart is a calculated traveler. When it senses that an emotional environment is harmful or unproductive, it begins its retreat. There are no rushed departures or dramatic exits. Instead, he neatly packs away each feeling, organizes them, and before you realize it, his heart has already moved on. For a Sigma, emotionally disconnecting isn't about disdain, it's about survival. He's given all he could give, tried to understand, and offered patience, but there comes a point when he asks himself, is this adding to or subtracting from my peace? And when the scales tip in the wrong direction, his heart knows it's time to leave. What's interesting is that even after emotionally checking out, he can remain physically present for a while. But those deep conversations that once defined the connection start to fade into surface-level exchanges. He responds out of politeness, but his mind is somewhere else. It's not that he doesn't care, it's that he's realized staying would only drain him further. By the time you try to reignite what once was, you'll find yourself speaking to someone who is no longer on the other side. His heart has found a new refuge, and this isn't the place he plans to return to. Number 7. He's figured out the game and decided not to play. Sigma males are like experts at solving puzzles. They can spend hours analyzing every piece, but once they figure out the pattern, they lose interest. They have no desire to participate in games where the rules change to suit someone else's convenience. If they detect manipulation, empty promises, or hidden emotional strategies, they don't cause a scene. They simply leave the game board and walk away. They don't need to confront anyone or expose the tricks they've discovered. To them, it's like seeing a magician's trick for the second time. There's no mystery, no magic left. Why stick around when everything that follows is predictable? Attempts to manipulate them become as obvious as bad movie endings. They know exactly when the tears, forced apologies, and promises of change will arrive. A Sigma doesn't stay to find out how many more times he can be deceived. When he decides to leave the game, it's not because he can't win, it's because he's realized that winning here holds no value. What's the point of victory in a game where the prize is emotional exhaustion? So, while others continue repeating the same patterns, the Sigma calmly places his final piece on the board and gets up without making a sound. He doesn't leave dramatic messages or warnings like, "You'll realize what you've lost." He doesn't need to. His silence speaks for itself. I understood the rules, and I've decided they're not for me. The best part is that when a Sigma leaves, it's permanent. He doesn't walk away waiting for a new invitation. He leaves because he's chosen to invest his energy in games where the only rule is protecting his inner peace. The silence of a Sigma male is his most definitive way of saying everything without needing to utter a single word. It's not a punishment or a tool for manipulation. It's a boundary. It's his way of signaling that he's reached a point where his personal well-being matters more than any explanation or reconciliation. When a Sigma chooses silence, he has already reviewed every possibility, given enough chances, and exhausted any hope for change. This silence isn't meant to hurt, but it can be devastating for those who don't understand it, because it's not the absence of noise that leaves an impact, but what that silence represents. A firm decision, a mental and emotional goodbye with no return. For many, his silence may be confusing, but for him it's the only way to protect his energy and inner peace. If you recognize any of these signs, it might be time to reflect inward and ask yourself what you truly value in your relationships. The Sigma doesn't stay where there's no mutual growth, nor does he invest in those who don't respect his essence. Subscribe to the channel and share your thoughts in the comments. Stay strong, keep evolving, and never stop growing. If you've made it this far, you already know this content has what you need to continue growing. Give it a like if something resonated with you, subscribe to the channel to catch more reflections like this, and turn on the notification bell to be the first to receive our new videos. And don't forget to check out the recommended video on your screen right now. See you in the next one.